Marlon Brando is an actor of very considerable talent, highly regarded by the industry he works in, the fans he works for, and those he works with. 2 nights ago, he won an Academy Award, the youngest actor ever honored in this way. He will be 31 on Sunday. This is the house that Marlon Brando lives in. It's a rented house, high in the Hollywood Hills, pleasantly isolated, yet conveniently located to the Goldwyn Studios, where Brando has started work in Guys and Dolls. Marlon has told me one of the reasons he rented this house was for its view of Los Angeles. Now that I think of it, Marlon, you spend a lot of time here in New York. You ever get a little homesick?
How are you, Ed?
Good.
No, well, I'm never away from New York long enough to really miss it. And,
What do you miss most about it?
well, I don't know. I like the nighttime in New York. There isn't much nightlife here. It's pretty much of a daytime town.
Well, a city at night all lit up is really exciting. How does Los Angeles look?
Well, you can have a look at it if you want to.
Good.
It's really quite lovely at the night because, well, I'm up in the hills, you see, way above the city,
Yes.
and I have a good vantage point here. And it's awfully nice to come out here in the evenings, have dinner at this little sort of nook here, especially on warm nights when the desert wind comes up over the hills. And it's a very pleasant place to live, and I enjoy it very much.
Marlon, could we see your house?
Sure. Right up here.
You heard any good stories lately?
Well, let's see. All right, what time is it when the Chinaman goes to the dentist?
What time is it when the Chinaman goes to the dentist?
Yes, Ed, what time is it when the Chinaman goes to the dentist?
I don't know. What time is it?
Well, it's 2:30. No, 2:30. Well, let it go. I guess I don't know any good stories.
Well, Marlon, you've had a pretty good year, but I suppose success can have its problems too, can it?
Yeah, before I answer, I'd like to show you my friend.
Oh, yes, I saw them hand you that night before last, didn't I?
A little while. What'd you say?
I saw them hand you that night before last, didn't I?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Ed.
Tell me, are you planning a long career as an actor?
Well, I'll tell you, Ed, up to last year, I sort of regarded acting as a means of making a living, and not much more. I was interested in other things, but I've taken a pretty active interest in it, and since I don't do anything else well, and up to this time I haven't decided what else I would like to do, I might as well put all my energies into being as good an actor as I can.
Tell me this, Marlon, does this seriousness also apply to your role as Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls? I mean, the singing you have to do.
Yes, I know what you mean. At first glance, it seems sort of a superficial form of entertainment, but actually I think it's part of an actor's trade to be able to play in a light vein and to be an entertainer as well as a serious storyteller. And I think that perhaps an actor at most is, maybe for a moment in his career, from time to time, a poet, and at the least he's a juggler and a roustabout and an entertainer, and I feel that I perhaps have neglected that part of my career up to this point.
And you rather like the challenge of the change, too, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's a lot of fun, actually, because when you play a serious part, you have to go to the set or the theater, and you have to sort of keep the tragedy in your mind and keep things working to keep yourself emotionally on edge in order to play the scenes well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to the set, I have a lot of fun because it's a gay sort of affair, and it's lively, and there are a lot of young kids around, and it's pleasant to look forward to. It's a nice way to spend your day rather than in the middle of a miasma of seriousness and gravity.
Mm-hmm. Marlon, how's your singing voice? Any good?
Well, I was quite surprised when I first heard it, Ed. Have you ever heard the mating call of a young yak?
No, I haven't, but I could imagine it.
It's pretty terrible.
Tell me, is Sky Masterson fun to play so far as you've gone with it?
Well, I really haven't had much of a chance to take a whack at it. We've only had a couple of rehearsals with Joe Mankiewicz, and I've had 2 days of shooting, one of which was sort of devoted to acclimating myself to the part, which isn't really very much, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Marlon, I know your dad's in town tonight. Is he hiding out somewhere?
Well, he's up behind the wall quaking with fear, never having been on television. I'll get him in here. Pop, come on out. Don't fall down the stairs with...
Now, we'll ask Mr. Brando some questions about his son, and I'm sure we'll get the blunt and direct answers. Good evening, Mr. Brando.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow.
I imagine you're just a bit proud of your son right now, aren't you?
Well, as an actor, not too proud, but as a man, why, quite proud.
Mr. Brando, tell me this. Was he hard to handle as a child?
I think he had the usual childhood traits. I think he had probably a little more trouble with his parents than most children do.
You mean bringing them up properly?
What was that?
You mean bringing his parents up properly?
Training them in the way they should go.
Yes. Marlon, in the interests of justice and fairness, would you like 30 seconds to defend yourself?
Well, I really don't feel I need to defend myself. I can lick this guy with one hand, so let it go.
Tell me, you and your sisters were very lucky to be able to grow up on a farm. Did you ever look back on those days?
I look back quite often, Ed. I had an awful lot of fun from the time I was about 14 to the time I was 17. We lived in the country on a farm. We didn't run the farm. We just lived on the house. And we had cows, and one cow. Her name was Violet, and my mom named it. And I used to milk the cow every day, except when I had a heavy date. I had to go someplace early, and then my pop took over. But he did a lousy job of milking because the cow was kind of small, and he wasn't used to it, so all the milk went up his sleeve. He missed the bucket completely. So he used to come in the house with a sleeve full of milk and serve it, arm style. But we had woods and a river, and we used to run down in the woods after school and put pennies on the tracks and watch the train run over it. And I look back upon that part of my life as with rather nostalgically and very pleasantly.
Well, Marlon, from what you've told me, I gather your mother must have been a rather tolerant sort of person, wasn't she?
Yes, my ma was. She, as a matter of fact, here's about the only personal effect I have in the house. This is a picture, a portrait of my ma when she was about, how old was she, Pop?
40.
About 40. And she was, I was just pausing because it's an odd thing. The night of the award was the anniversary of my ma's passing away. So it's been kind of a lot of mixed feelings, and it's odd that it should, we bring it up now. But she was a marvelous person. For instance, she dressed up a pet goose we had for Santa Claus. She made a Santa Claus out of it and made a little red costume for it and a beard and everything. And she was a very inventive and artistic woman, and I miss her very much.
Marlon, this matter of privacy, the loss of your anonymity, does that bother you very much?
The loss of my anonymity?
Anonymity.
Yes.
The fact that you're recognized wherever you go.
Well, it's tough sometimes because you really don't get to relate to people as you normally would. They always sort of regard you specially. And, but it has its advantages in as much as I can... What's that noise?
I hear drums.
That's Jack, I guess. He's anxious to get on.
Well, I know you play at the drums a little yourself, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's sort of a hobby. When I was 15, I got a set of drums from my old man, and I've been playing around ever since. I had a little band.
Do the neighbors ever complain?
Only once. The cops came. Well, we were playing awfully late at night, but since then we haven't played. We play at the studio. But if you'd like to hear them, I'll kind of run downstairs and give you a lick or two. The guy that's down there, who's losing his mind at the moment, evidently, is Jack Costanza, who's probably the foremost exponent of jazz bongo. He played with Stan Kenton and Nat King Cole and with many of the top people. He now has his own orchestra, and he's there he is, the man himself. Hiya, Jack.
Hi, Marlon.
How are you?
How you doing?
How's that little thing?
It's wonderful.
Good. Quite a roof.
Good evening, Jack Costanzo.
How do you do, Mr. Murrow?
How are you?
It's fine.
Well, I guess we're now ready to audition a new act. Brando and Costanzo. That even rhyme. Go ahead.
Well,
Crazy, Marlon.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
See you, Mr. Merrill.
Thank you. Good night, Jack. Marlon, if you have breath left, let's talk a little shop, shall we?
Okay.
Would you say on the whole that the movie people are doing a good job?
Yes, I think they are doing a good job. I used to feel that perhaps they weren't being as responsible to artistic considerations as they might be, but after all, you have to consider the fact that a movie costs $1 million. It is a legitimate investment, and it has to be protected with some commercial aspects. And it is an industry, basically, and not an art. But I think that perhaps, and so I've revised my feeling about that, and it's been awfully good to me, and I've been appreciative of the things that have come my way, but I think that some of the producers could make an effort to stretch a little bit, because I think people are, I think that they could appeal to what is a little more elevated in people instead of the common denominator. Perhaps that's a little confusing, but
No.
I mean, you understand?
Yes, go ahead.
I think that they could appeal to what is more elevated in people rather than to what is commonest in them, and thereby raise the standards a little bit. And it sounds a little kind of Pollyanna, but actually that's the way I feel.
Well, Marlon, you've played something like 14 roles in 10 years now. Which has been the most important one, so far as you're concerned? The most satisfying?
Well, I think Streetcar was the most important and perhaps the most satisfying, because I have a great respect for Tennessee's play. It was important to me for two reasons. One, that it was a good part for me to play. It was most effective, and it had instantaneous reaction, and it got me started in my movie career. It had another unfortunate aspect, and that was that people invariably associated me with the part I played, so that it was difficult to believe that I didn't eat off the floor, or that I, didn't run up the street with my shoes off, and so it's been a hard thing, sort of living that down. But I think most of that has gone out the window, and none of the ill effects remain. So I'm quite happy about the whole thing.
Well, I shouldn't think anyone is still saying that. Marlon, tell me, how would you describe yourself in, say, 30 seconds?
30 seconds? I wouldn't do it on a bet. Not in 30 seconds. I don't think I'd do it under any circumstances. I prefer that people drew their own conclusions. And I would think it's not only a little presumptuous to describe yourself, but it's a little distorted, in as much as your point of view on yourself is always so subjective that you can be pretty sure that it's not completely a reliable opinion that you might give.
Well, thank you very much, Marlon Brando, for letting us come and visit you. And will you say good night to your dad for us?
I sure will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.